This episode of Sports Addict Live brought to you by none other than First Round Collectibles. With over 40 years experience, First Round Collectibles offers the widest variety of quality Beckett-graded sports cards anywhere. Representing 10 major sports, First Round has all your favorite players from all your favorite teams at great prices. We are proud of our knowledgeable staff and top-rated customer service, and our reviews vouch for our integrity. Visit us today at firstroundcollectibles.com and find your heroes. That's the number one, STRoundcollectibles.com. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans.
All I hear, go get the money. So I go get it. Hate means I do something right. So I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him. I hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I'ma let him. All I hear, go get the money. So I go get it. Hate means I do something right. So I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him. Yeah.
Hey, welcome. Sports Addict Live. Good to be back. Crazy week in the sports world. As always, especially this time of year, you got the Harden trade, all right? You got football, you got basketball, hockey, all that stuff. The play-in tournament, the Texas Rangers winning the World Series in the least watched World Series of all time. I'm pretty sure that's what I read. And I mean, you know, no disrespect, the Diamondbacks were a good underdog story, a good kind of Cinderella story. I think them beating the Phillies just took the win completely out of the sails for me. Phillies, Texas, Philly, Houston, either way in the AL would have been just a way more compelling matchup. I still watch the games, and the Diamondbacks put up a fight. Game 5, I mean, 0-0 going into the 8th. I believe it was the 8th or even the 9th, and Texas just blowing it wide open. Congratulations to them. First World Series ever. Play-in tournament, I got some thoughts. Or not play-in, in-season tournament. Got some thoughts on that, along with the Harden trade. The reason why you heard the Best Bets music is I'm going to start it off with some best bets. It's Saturday. These are my favorite bets for the weekend. I got a couple basketball and hockey picks for tonight. So if you're listening to this on a Saturday when I'm releasing it, then you will get my favorite picks for the evening. And then, of course, my favorite picks in the NFL for tomorrow. A couple picks against the spread. A couple parlays, a tease, same game parlay, lots to get into. But first, just want to talk a little bit. We lost two legends earlier in the week and on the weekend. First of all, sports related, rest in peace, Bob Knight. One of the most compelling and controversial figures in sports. For everything good that you have to say about the guy, there's a lot of bad things out there as well. You got a lot of former players saying a lot of negative things, and then guys who have nothing but praise for the guy, and his toughness and the way he carried himself made them into the men that they are today. And I didn't know the guy clearly. You hear a lot of stuff, a lot of negative stuff, but if we're talking strictly basketball, and specifically college basketball, there's no doubts that he's an absolute legend and one of the best coaches in college basketball history, if not the best. 902 wins all time, 3 titles, all with Indiana. Coached for a couple different teams as well, known mostly for his time with Indiana from 1971 to the year 2000. And we lost a great one as far as basketball minds. 83 years old, he passed away. So rest in peace. Thoughts to his family. And again, it's super weird when you're talking about, and I'm not going to get into all the story. There's people way more knowledgeable than me who are either a lot more knowledgeable about college basketball, but also who dealt with him personally, and I'm not that guy. It's difficult when you're talking about figures like this because you're aware of the negative vibes that were put out over the years. But it's a sports show, and if we're sticking with the sports, there's no doubt one of the greatest basketball minds in college basketball. The next one, and I know this isn't sports related, but it's close to my heart. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry. Friends star Chandler Bing. For me, so I'm 34 years old. So Friends came out in 94 to 2004, and so Friends ended just before or as I was in high school. And if you're of my age and you're a dude, it wasn't cool to say that you love Friends. It wasn't cool to say that you like Friends and all this stuff. So I just would say, well, my girlfriend is making me watch it, which was true. But I loved Friends. I always have. Chandler was my favorite character. I find Ross extremely annoying. Monica a tad less annoying. We all loved Rachel. You know why. Phoebe was great. Joey was hilarious, but the truth of the matter is Chandler was always my favorite character. And as the years went on, we found out a lot about Matthew Perry and the demons that he faced. And, some people may know this if you know a bit about me, if you know me personally. Drug addiction is something that I've battled with. I've been sober now for a long time. But I understand the battle. I know the battle, and it's an awful battle. And addiction's no joke, and it's evil. And so, we still don't know all the details about his passing. We don't know if it was drug related or not. What I will say is that regardless, I've always felt a connection with him, and he will be missed, greatly missed. So rest in peace, Bob Knight and Matthew Perry. All right, moving on to the sports side, the less serious side, but still serious if you're spending your money on these games. Once again, if you're listening on Saturday, then these are some of my picks for Saturday night. We'll keep it short and sweet and get into the picks for the NFL tomorrow. In the NBA, the Sacramento Kings are in Houston to face the Rockets. Kings are minus 138 favorites. I love that pick. I think they should even be more favorited than they are. I think minus 138 is actually a really good price for them. Picking the Kings at Rockets. Now, Chicago is in Denver and Boston is in Brooklyn. Both those teams are heavily juiced, and that's Boston and Denver. Heavily juiced. Brooklyn played an incredible game, actually, against Chicago last night in Chicago. They're home tonight. I think that game took a lot out of them, and I think Boston continues to do what they've been doing to everybody. And I think Boston wins that game handedly. And then you have the Bulls in Denver, like I mentioned, and they both play back-to-backs. Tonight is a back-to-back for both of them. You have Chicago traveling to Denver, and even besides the fact that Denver is a way better team than Chicago, I just think that game against Brooklyn last night, traveling to Denver, I give the edge even more to Denver here. But they're really heavily juiced. So I'm parlaying the Kings, Boston, and Denver plus 169. That's my favorite parlay in the NBA tonight. Keep an eye. Listen, the Lakers are in Orlando, And Orlando is the underdog by a pretty decent margin. And Orlando played phenomenal against the Lakers in Los Angeles a couple weeks ago. I don't mind that pick. I really don't. Picking Orlando, not even just the points, like straight up to win. I really like watching that team. They work hard. Do I think they win? I don't know. But they're the odds, like they're pretty heavy underdogs, and I think it's worth a little sprinkle. In the NHL, Buffalo is at Leafs. Buffalo's had a tough start to their season, a lot of expectations. The whole summer we're talking about Buffalo and Detroit and Ottawa as these up-and-coming teams in the Atlantic. Ottawa has been really up and really down. Detroit's played really well. The addition of DeBrincat has been phenomenal, but Buffalo is still just, every year we think this is the year they're going to get it together, and every year they disappoint. And they got smoked against Philadelphia last night. It's a back-to-back for them tonight. They're in Toronto, and Toronto had a tough loss to Los Angeles. I wouldn't say that they didn't show up, but you can just tell from the jump that the Kings were winning that game. And then Thursday in Boston, and we'll talk about this game a little bit more later on. Tough game. I thought the Leafs played pretty well in parts. Other parts, I thought that Boston was just rolling. And Boston has some pretty big injuries, and so for Toronto to not take advantage was disappointing. Lots of talk right now around their toughness. Again, we'll talk about this a little bit later. Lots of talk right now about their toughness. I think, like I said, they had a tough loss to the Kings and a tough loss to the Bruins, and I think the Leafs roll tonight, -1.5. You're getting that at +104 on the puck line. Blue Jackets are in Washington. Now, the Blue Jackets have had a pretty good start to the season. I think they'll be a fringe playoff team. I thought this before the season started. I thought they might not make the playoffs, but they won't be too far away. I think they'll be in the conversation for the wild card all year. And Washington, this is a lost year for Washington. The only thing the Capitals care about is let's get Ovi that record. Let's get him, beating Wayne Gretzky for the all-time scoring record. And the Blue Jackets are pretty heavy dogs in Washington, +128. So I really like that pick. I think Columbus has played pretty well this season, and like I said, Washington, they don't care. and I'm pretty sure I saw Backstrom's out for a significant time, so I like the Blue Jackets +128. My last pick for tonight, the New York Rangers are in Minnesota to face the Wild. Rangers are +100 dogs, and the Rangers are a better team than Minnesota. They've had a pretty good start to the season. I like the Rangers in Minnesota. Probably a low-scoring game. Take a little look at the over-under. I think it's at 5.5. Might be 6.5. I think it's at 5.5. I don't mind the under on that. But Rangers +100. Now, you can parlay all that together. Leafs -1.5, Blue Jackets, and Rangers at Wild. Parlay that all at +830. So I like that. Again, in the NBA, Kings -138 against the Rockets. Boston Kings Nuggets +169 parlay. Leafs -1.5, Blue Jackets +128, Rangers +100. Parlay that at +830. All right, NFL. So I'm not going to talk too much about the NFL later on in the show, so let's just get kind of some of this out of the way here. The Chiefs and the Dolphins in Germany tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. EST. This is my take. So, and as you know, if you've been listening to this show, I do all the primetime games, and I pick a 1 o'clock game and a 4 o'clock game. I the Chiefs had maybe the worst game that I've ever seen them play in the Mahomes era last week. They lost to Denver 24-9. Was it 9? I think so. It wasn't good. It was it was bad. Mahomes was sick. He had a tough week. It's becoming more and more clear that they need other people for him to throw to. I don't fully understand why they didn't make a move when it came to the trade deadline. I don't like what I'm seeing from their passing game. That being said, they're playing the Dolphins, who are 6-2. Their two losses come against the Buffalo Bills, who at the time had a much healthier defense, and Josh Allen rolled in that game, 40-24, if I remember correctly. And then they lost to the Eagles, 31-17. The Eagles that have a very good defense. Their secondary is their weakness, but between the defensive line and the corners and the linebackers, they have a phenomenal defense. The Dolphins can't beat good teams. That's what they've been showing us. That's what they've been telling us. I know that the Chiefs have looked subpar for a lot of the year. I know that Mahomes had one of his worst games ever. You get, into the nerd stats and, EPA and, DVOA and all that stuff, and the Chiefs had one of their worst games. Like I said, in the Mahomes-Reed era, but the Dolphins, like I said, they can't beat good teams. They've been telling us that all year. Now, the Chiefs haven't been playing that great, and they've been telling us that for most of the year. That being said, who do I trust more? And it's the Chiefs, and I'm picking the Chiefs minus 1.5. Now, in the 1 o'clock games, not a lot of great games, to be honest with you, especially picking against the spread. Some super interesting games. You got Vikings and Falcons. Heineke starting for the Falcons. Ritter getting benched. You have Cousins, who got hurt. Jefferson, I believe, is still out. I believe the Falcons are minus 4.5 favorites, if I remember correctly, in Atlanta. You have some interesting games. You have Baker versus Stroud with the Buccaneers facing Houston. But not a lot of excitement in the 1 o'clock hour. That being said, the Rams are in Green Bay, and the Rams are +3 underdogs against Green Bay. Green Bay, the Jordan Love experience started out fun, and it has been anything but fun ever since the beginning of the season. They look like one of the worst teams in football. The Packers defense continues to underperform, and now Stafford is questionable to play, and Nakua is questionable to play. If those two play, I'm taking the Rams all day, +3. If they don't play, then just both teams can't score and it's a close game and it's +3. I don't mind that at all. All right. Where are we here? Giants in Las Vegas. We don't know what's going on in the quarterback situation for the Giants. The Raiders are very eventful week, to say the least, in Las Vegas. Minus the strip, just in football world. They fire the coach. They fire the GM. They bench Garoppolo. The way this whole thing went down, especially the timing of it, people are trying to call them to trade for players, and no one's answering the phone because Mark Davis is busy firing his whole staff. Just a total gong show, which is par for the course in Las Vegas, formerly Oakland. However, the Giants are awful. The Raiders have been awful, but are more talented, in my opinion, than the Giants. And they got a new coach. We've seen this before. You get a new coach, you win the next game, and then you suck like you did before you got a new coach. I'm picking the Raiders, -1.5. We'll see what happens. I have nothing else on this game. I think they should have traded Crosby. They should have traded Devontae Adams. I think it's awful that we see two of the best players in the league at their position playing in this tire fire that is the Las Vegas Raiders. But that's where we are, and I'm picking the Raiders, -1.5. The Sunday night football game of the week is one we've all been waiting for. The Bills at Bengals. Bengals at home, -1.5 favorites. And I guess I understand why it's only -1.5. I would even make this -2.5, -3.5. Look at alternate lines for this. I would consider taking the Bengals even higher than -1.5. The Bills' defense is completely dismantled due to injuries. Could Josh Allen come out and have a phenomenal game? It's possible. The Bengals' defense looked great last week. They're one of those defenses you just kind of never know what you're going to get. They could be great. They could not be great. But this one's in the hands of Joe Burrow. And if you're giving me -1.5, the Bengals, I think the Bengals roll. I think Joe Burrow's hit his streak. This team always starts slow. I thought they were done. I thought that they should sit Burrow, and I couldn't have been more wrong. So I'm taking the Bengals -1.5 against the Bills. Chargers at Jets. Not much to say about this game. I'm picking the Jets +3.5. That's all I got. Nothing really more to add there. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit Cowboys-Eagles. This game, so the Eagles are at home, favored by 3 points. You get the Eagles -3 at -115. Cowboys +3 at -105. Cowboys money line +148. Eagles money line 178. This game is a huge game for both teams. First and foremost, just because it's the Cowboys-Eagles, one of the best rivalries in sports. These teams hate each other. These fan bases hate each other. I'm a huge Eagles fan, as you have learned by now, and I hate it when we play the Cowboys. It's always tense. I'm always like, I would rather lose to the Giants by 14 than lose to the Giants or to the Cowboys by any amount of points. I hate losing to the Cowboys, and this is a big game. Now, the Eagles 7-1. If they win this game, now we've talked about what they have coming up. They face the Chiefs. They face the Bills. They face the Niners. They play the Cowboys again. They play the Seahawks. They have a gauntlet coming up. And the Eagles need to cushion themselves in the division and in the NFC, considering you're not going to win. I mean, listen, I don't know. Could they win all those games with the way the Chiefs have been playing, with the way the Bills have been playing, with the way the Niners have been playing? It's possible, but you're more than likely, Dallas, Chiefs, Bills, Niners, Dallas, Seahawks. And that was in those 6 games. If you go 3-3, 4-2, that's pretty much what you're looking at. So you got to win this one. It's at home. You got to win this one. From the Cowboys' perspective, I've been saying it. The Cowboys have not won a game because of Dak. It's all been their defense. Listen, that game last week, the Cowboys won because of Dak. The defense played great, but Dak had a phenomenal game. Can he do it again? What's going to happen with this defense? Can he find the weakness of the secondary for the Eagles? Hurts has been banged up. Cowboys have a great defense. Micah Parsons going on and on and on his podcast last week about how much better the Eagles are than everybody else. So we'll see what happens. I think the Eagles win this game. I like the -3. I won't bet it because it's an Eagles-Cowboys game, and I don't need any other reason to stress out. Like, add my finances on top of it. I don't need that. Plenty of other stuff to bet on. What I will bet on in this game is a little same game parlay, SGP, if you will. A.J. Brown is over, so his over-under is 84.5. This guy's been getting 125 plus yards in 6 straight games. And his over-under is 84.5. So you're telling me at 84.5, what's that? I can't do quick math. 25 down to 100. So 40. So you're telling me he's going to get 40 less, I guess 39 less yards that he has for the last 6 games. Okay. Over 84.5. You're getting that at -114. CeeDee Lamb, his over-under is 77.5. And like I've said, the weakest part of this entire Eagles team is their secondary. Get the ball to CeeDee Lamb, over 77.5. I like it. That's also at -114. Dak Prescott, over 1.5 touchdowns. I think the Eagles' run defense is very, very good. I don't see Pollard having a big day. And I think that Dak has a good enough passing day to get 1.5 touchdowns and get CeeDee Lamb 77.5 yards. And then to make it a little spicy, Goddard, anytime touchdown, plus 240. We know that Hurts wants to run the ball into the end zone. We know A.J. Brown wants to get into the end zone. Same with Devontae Smith. Same with Swift. Swift and Smith. I think Dallas Goedert has a great day in the red zone tomorrow. Brown over 84.5, -114. Lamb over 77.5, -114. Prescott over 1.5 TDs, -112. Dallas Goedert anytime TD, plus 240. You're getting all that at plus 1,467, plus 1467. I love that. That's my same game parlay for tomorrow. All right. I was trying to find a teaser for tomorrow, and there's really nothing good in tease world. However, I just made one. I don't know if I'm even going to play it, but I made one. If you like it, by all means, take it. Cowboys +3, teasing that to +9. Raiders -1.5, +2, +4.5. Seahawks +5.5 to +11.5. And Colts -2.5 to +3.5. You've heard what I think about the Cowboys and Raiders. The Seahawks, and by the way, for that Birds game against the Cowboys, I think it's a close game. I think +9 seems about right. Whether the Cowboys win or lose, I see it being a close game. Now, Seahawks +5.5 to +11.5. The Seahawks, where did I have it? The Seahawks money line. They're playing the Bengals in Baltimore. Baltimore does not lose in Baltimore very often. The Seahawks money line is +220. I don't think so. The Ravens are kind of due right now. They've had some incredible games, and they feel kind of due. If you're giving me Seahawks +5.5, I actually like that. But if you're giving me +11.5, I love that. I do think the Seahawks keep this close and maybe win. I think the Ravens win, but stranger things have happened. And then Colts are -2.5 against the Panthers. I don't know if the Colts will win this game or not, but I know this game will be within a field goal. So teasing that to plus 3.5. You get all that. Cowboys plus 9, Raiders plus 4.5, Seahawks plus 11.5, Colts plus 3.5. You're getting that all at plus 240. All right, anything else that I have here? A little underdog, not underdog, but a little long shot parlay. I like the Bengals. I like the Raiders. Bengals are minus 130. Raiders are minus 126. That in and of itself is not a long shot. However, add the Seahawks. Get a little risky. It's Sunday. We go back to our normal lives on Monday. Plus 220. I love it. Plus 915 for that whole parlay. All right, let's step aside for a quick second, and we'll get to the rest of the show.
Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah. I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Yeah, oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, can't relax. Original, I am not the same as these cats. I sting them if they never ever mind.
All right. The controls on here are a little finicky. Anyway, whatever. I digress. All right. Earlier in the week, you've all heard about it by now. I need a drink before I get into this. Of water, to clarify. James Harden gets traded to the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, if you're a sports fan, you're listening to this show, you're a sports addict, you've heard all about this trade, you've heard all the opinions. I won't get super into it, but these are my thoughts. Also, later in the week, next week, I'll get my boy Tom Brown on here. We're going to talk a little NBA, and I'm sure I'll get his thoughts on this trade, but I'll give you my thoughts here real quick. So the Clippers get Harden, Tucker, Philip Petrusev. Sixers get Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, or Batum, or whatever. KJ Martin, 2028 unprotected first, 2 second-round picks, 2029 pick swap, and an OKC first-round draft pick. I believe it's 2026. I don't understand is not necessarily true. I don't like this trade at all for the Clippers. At all. I still think when Kawhi is healthy, he's one of my favorite players to watch. They've looked fun this year. But this is the thing. Number one, you were in competition with nobody. Nobody was trying to get James Harden. There was no competition at all. You are helping the 76ers. Clearly, it's addition by subtraction for the Sixers. Doesn't matter who they get. They just need to get rid of the guy. Obviously, they gave up a lot to get him, and the Kyrie thing, and blah, 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 blah. Not Kyrie, sorry. Ben Simmons thing and all that stuff. I get it. You were in competition with nobody. You gave up a bunch of players. You gave up a 2028 unprotected first. Listen to me. A team with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard as your stars. Now you got James Harden. Okay, you got Russell Westbrook. You're in win now mode. By 2028, this team is going to be dismantled. Or if not dismantled, not the same team. In my opinion, I just don't think so. It's 2024, right? Or 2023, really. So I just don't understand why you're giving up so much when you're in competition with nobody. Denver is the team to beat in the Western Conference, and it's not even close. Dallas has had a great start to the year. I think the Lakers will be a problem, but if we're talking a 7-game series in April and May, it's the Denver Nuggets right now, and it's not even close. Are you beating the Nuggets with James Harden, who, by the way, has proven himself to be a cancer? The answer is no. So what are you giving up all this stuff for if you're not going to be, like, you're going to get a few more playoff games maybe? And that press conference that James Harden had a couple days ago, I mean, give me a break with that stuff. I'm not a system player. I am a system. Well, guess what, man? In Game 6 and 7, the system was broken. You should have beat the Celtics. That series was done. You're up 12 points in the fourth quarter. Over. I just don't get it for the Clippers. Now, for the Sixers, like I said, addition by subtraction for this team. You get rid of Harden, and now you've opened up the court for Maxey. And I think this team's way better without James Harden, without the distraction. I'm watching them right now. They look good. I can't stand Joel Embiid. I still don't trust this Sixers team in the playoffs. I think they lose in the second round like they always do. However, they're better without James Harden, in my opinion. Now, you get all these players, you get all these picks. Clearly, the Sixers won this trade. And I think it's a great trade by the Sixers, considering there was no competition for James Harden. Just doesn't make sense to me from a Clippers point of view. And I get it, man. Like, they'll be good, and Harden's going to have his games where he shines, and he's going to have his game where the ball stops with him, and they suck. But you have players like Kawhi who wants the ball, George who wants the ball, Russell who wants the ball, now Harden who wants the ball. It's too many people who want the ball. And I just think it's not going to work out. But we'll see what happens. And I like rooting for the Clippers. I really do. But I just don't see how this is going to end well. The in-season tournament started last night, Friday night. Great games all the way around. Like, really, really fun games all the way around. I like the idea. I think I hated it at first. I thought it seemed super gimmicky, but I like the idea. I like that the group play games count in the regular season. I think that's huge. I think that matters. A couple things that I still can't wrap my head around. The first one is the courts look awful. Too much, man. Like, I'm watching, what was it? The Pacers and, who were the Pacers playing last night? Cleveland. And just this bright blue, like, it's just so distracting. Really don't like the courts. But the other thing, and more importantly, as a fan, okay, now I understand you want the players to have a reason to win this, okay? So the coaches, they get 500G. The players, I think 500G, or is it $1 million? And there's been people have said, well, they already make so much money. That doesn't, no. 500G, it doesn't matter how much money you have, man. You add 500G to the pile. Why not? $1 million to the pile. Why not? Is their life drastically changed? It's not about their life, right? You're building a future for your family long after you're gone. So at least that's the way it should be. But as a fan, why do I care if they win? That's the thing that I still don't quite understand. I think it's fun. I think maybe you give it, 3, 4, 5 years, maybe I will care. I still think there should be something extra for the team that season, whether it's a draft pick, whether it's a tiebreaker in the playoffs, whatever it is. I think more should be on the line. What that necessarily means, like I said, I don't know. Draft pick, tiebreaker, I don't know. I just think it needs to matter more for my team in this season for me to care as a fan, right? Because guess what, man? If Kevin Durant gets an extra $500,000, I don't care. Good for him. It doesn't bother. I'm not like sitting on my couch, standing up, cheering, rooting, so that my boys get an extra $500,000. I love Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes and OG and all these guys. I love my Raptors, but it doesn't matter to me if they make more money. Doesn't. So yeah, as a fan, why do you care? And I'd be curious. I mean, get at me at Sport Addict Mark on Twitter. I do care about the group play games because they count for the regular season. That's huge. But for an actual winning it all, why do I fully care about this tournament? We'll see. All right. Like I said, my boy Tom's going to come on next week. We'll talk a little bit more basketball. For now, a few little things. The Nuggets and Celtics are just better than everybody. I think that the Damian Lillard trade benefited Boston more than anybody. And I just think these two teams are the teams to beat. Fun teams to watch. My favorite teams to watch so far, aside from the obvious, okay? OKC, blast this team. And if you're a betting man, watch. If they are underdogs, whether they're at home or on the road, more than likely on the road, if they're underdogs against teams that aren't the Nuggets, Celtics, maybe the Sixers, bet it. If they're plus money against anybody on the road that's not that top tier team, bet it. Last night against Golden State, controversial ending to the game. They didn't have SGA, and they could have won that game. Just an incredible game without their star player. Phenomenal. The Portland Trailblazers, man, they won me some money last night, and I really like watching this team. You're getting a lot of bad shots, but a lot of great play. They're really young. You have, Ayton Brogdon to kind of beef it up a little bit. I really like this team. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to go to the playoffs. They're not going to win anything. But if we're talking strictly entertainment, I like this team. And the same thing goes with the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama, just an incredible week against the Suns. Just a really, really fun team to watch. So that's kind of what I got in the NBA. Like I said, Tom Brown will join me. My boy will join me next week for some more basketball talk. All right, let's finish this off. We got a little bit NHL talk. So, being based here in Toronto, being a Leaf fan, we want to consider ourselves Stanley Cup contenders. We want to consider ourselves the creme de la creme of the league. I have words for everybody, and I hate to break it to you. Colorado, what did I write here? Colorado, Vegas, Boston. That's the top tier. I think Dallas is a very underrated team. Watch out for them. That's the top tier right now. And if you're watching the Leafs listen, the Kings are a good team, and they're going to cause havoc this year. They're a good team. They're going to the playoffs. I like the Kings. That performance on Tuesday was unacceptable by the Leafs. If you're a Stanley Cup contender, you don't have to win the game. You just got to show up. Right? You're watching that Boston game the other day. Boston has massive, whether it's suspension or injury, Boston was shorthanded. Boston's playing dirty, playing chippy, and the Leafs just let it happen. There were moments where the Leafs played very, very well. But then there's moments where they're just in their own end for 5 minutes. And if you consider yourself a Stanley Cup contender, I mean, watch Vegas, watch Colorado, watch Boston. These teams, it's like butter. Like, they're so smooth. They don't have these, once in a while, Colorado will have a game, Vegas will have a game, whatever. But they're just not there. Now, Liljegren's out on long-term IR. They're going to have to do something on the defensive side already. Even without Liljegren going out, they needed to do something on that defense. So it'll be really, really interesting to see what happens there. Like I said, they play Buffalo tonight. You got to win this game by 3. I just think you're too good of a team to let what happened this week happen. Buffalo, they're a team that is up and coming, but they don't. Like, they got spanked by Philly last night. They're on the road. It's time. It's time. Now, on the West Coast, the western coast of Canada, Calgary and Edmonton are both in big trouble right now. However, for Edmonton, I think it's a little bit different. I think the way that the playoff format is, where the first place team in the division plays a wild card team, and then the second and third place team in the division plays each other. It's the same thing for the Leafs. The division is super important, the way that this playoff structure is. I know Florida came in as a wild card and they upset Boston and blah, 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 blah. But that's not normal. If you're the Oilers, you're out of the division, winning the division. You're out now. You got 5 points or whatever it is. I think 5 points. Vegas has just been steamrolling everybody. You're out. So now you got to settle for the 2-3 or a wild card. I think Edmonton will be fine. The biggest thing with them is they got to get a save. And it blows my mind that you have 2 of the best players in the world when it comes to Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. You got 2 of the best players in the world, and this is the goalie tandem that you are bringing out for the last 2 years. Last year, Jack Campbell getting $5 million, that was crazy even then, but you understood it. Okay, that was the market, blah, 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 blah. To go back into this year with Campbell and Skinner, it's just unacceptable from a Edmonton point of view. It just is. And if you can't get a goalie that will make a save, this team's not doing anything when it comes to the playoffs. They're not, right? I think they'll get there. They're too talented not to get there. But the defense or the goaltending, like, that's the concerning part for me, is your tandem is 2 guys who have no consistency at all when it comes to their games. Now, they're provincial rivals, Calgary. It's way worse. It's way worse. Calgary's in big, big trouble. And you watch this team, okay? Last year, lots of drama, right? Last summer, Gaudreau doesn't sign. Okay, he wants to leave. Fine. Tkachuk comes straight out and says, listen, you can keep me for this year if you want, but I'm not signing here next summer. So you might as well trade me, which is a good move by him. Okay. They go out. They trade Tkachuk for Huberdeau and Weegar, and they sign Nazem Kadri. Under those circumstances, losing Johnny Gaudreau, losing Matthew Tkachuk, the best possible scenario, getting Huberdeau, Kadri, and Weegar back, was phenomenal. Brad Treliving, who's now in Toronto, I don't think could have done better. Think he did the best with what he could. Well, last year and this year, Huberdeau and Kadri have been non-existent. Huberdeau goes from 115 points to 56? I think he has 3 points this year. This team looks slow. They look uninspired. They blamed the whole thing on Daryl Sutter last year. The whole thing was Sutter's fault. No, this is beyond Sutter's fault. It's unexplainable, and you can really do nothing. Like, if you're Calgary, you just got to wait and just see, right? Hoping these guys play themselves out of this. It's extremely concerning. They're missing the playoffs. I just don't. The Oilers have enough talent, like I said, to bounce back from this start and get to the playoffs. What they'll do when they get there is another conversation. But Calgary is done. I just don't see them getting out of this. And they're not talented enough. They're not fast enough to get themselves out of this hole. What else do I got? I guess the only other thing in the NHL that really caught my eye this week was Vancouver, man. I think this team really underperformed last year. After their first game of the year, they got called out by the coach. And ever since they've been terrific. They're 6-2, I believe. 6-2-1 maybe. I know they played the Sharks the other night, but you're beating anybody 10-1. I don't care if it's the worst team in the league. You're beating them 10-1. That's an impressive game. I like this Vancouver team, man, and I think they're gonna turn some eyeballs on the center ice package. The teams that I like. I like this Columbus team. I think they're fun to watch. I think Detroit's fun to watch. I like this Vancouver team. St. Louis is a weird one where they're a very talented team. They have some good players, but they just can't quite get it together. Lots of really fun stuff in the NHL. All right. I think that's it for me. We'll move on. Good luck with your bets tomorrow. Once again, thank you so much for joining me on Sports Addict Live. You can find me at Sport Addict Mark on Twitter. We'll be back next week with some more football talk, basketball, hockey, of course. We'll get into the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. YouTube or Spotify. Get hooked.